Now we're on one of the most important modules, and that's mindset. Mindset is so important. It will make or break your game. It determines whether you succeed or whether you continue to be vanilla. And it's true. The mind is your biggest obstacles to success. It can also be your biggest greatness. It's essential that you recognize how your old ways of thinking and acting have gotten you exactly where you are right now. As Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that you created it. And how many times do you look at a painting and wonder what you can do to save it? Painting is problem solving. You have a painting that is in that critical stage of now what? This is the time you must step out of your normal thinking and look at it with a different mind. Now, it sounds easy, but how do we do that? I mean, that's a different way of thinking. So to let something new into your life, you need to let go of something that's taking up room in your mind. And this can be difficult as we're rather comfortable where we are, and the unknown is rather scary. So, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get out a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, draw a circle. Doesn't have to be a big circle, but it has to be a circle. Just draw a circle. Now, go down from the top of the circle and draw a line across the circle about a quarter way down. So you've got a quarter and you've got 3/4. Now I want you to look at your circle and have on the part that is 1/4 and the part that's on the 1/4 is the conscious mind. We're going to label this. This is a conscious mind. The 3/4 one is the unconscious mind. And we talked about this in the last video. This determines about what and how you see. The subconscious mind does. It is what is invisible that creates the visible. What does that mean? It means that if you want to change the visible, you have to change the invisible. And the only way to change your outer world is to first change your inner world. We talked about this in the last, it's the words that we're putting this all together. Let me give you an example, and from personal experience here. When I was a senior in high school, the school counselor, Mrs. Jones, real name, brought each senior student that was considering going to college into her office for a talk. And I was so excited I could hardly stand it. But first, let me describe Mrs. Jones. She was a very tall, thin woman that wore a black suit, white crisp blouse with a pin on the lapel, nude stockings, and black leather pumps. Her jet black hair was pulled back into a tight bun, and her cool red lipstick graced lips that seldom smiled. And I remembered that her clip earrings must have really hurt because she kept taking them off and rubbing her ears. Now, as I sat down in her office, I noticed that there were no windows. The room seemed very cold, and her desk was metal, and the chair I was sitting in was gray, metal, and cold. I smiled at Mrs. Jones, but the mood changed quickly. Mrs. Jones looked at me and said, "Gwen, don't bother trying to even go to college because you aren't smart enough." Smart enough. The room swirled and my stomach turned and my smile disappeared. And then Mrs. Jones said, "You can go now, Gwen." But finding my legs was hard because they were shaking so bad. Not smart enough kept running through my head. Now, I did go to college, but Mrs. Jones' words went with me. Not smart enough. She stayed with me for decades. Not smart enough. Then one day my son said to me, Mom, you have taken not smart enough as your truth. That is when I realized that the only way to change my outer world was to change my inner world. Not smart enough was a belief. It was not the truth. Mrs. Jones, or Ms. Jones, colored my world, and I believed her. Now, we all have a Mrs. Jones, someone in our life that has done something, okay? Who is your Mrs. Jones? And I want you to write about her, him, them, whatever. I want you to describe them. I want you to describe how you felt when they said whatever it is they said. Describe it. Write it in that wonderful notebook that you have. You're going to come back and read it. And you're going to say, oh, that's what colored my world. But it's no longer colored that. Because you want to color your own world, your colors, the way you want to see the world. I believe in you.